Good morning, everybody. My name is Adele Failes-Carpenter. I'm the coordinator of Project Survive at City College of San Francisco. We are a program that is student-led that focuses on peer education to promote healthy relationships and end abuse and gender-based violence. And we're joined today with some of our peer educators from City College. We have Safi here and Mikey, and I'll be handing it to them shortly. But I wanted to share with you all just a little bit more information about our program and about how students can be trained to be paid sexual violence prevention peer educators and gain classroom experience doing that work at City College. I'm going to briefly share my screen. So Project Survive has a 6-unit course of trainings. It's 2 classes. One is called Women's and Gender Studies 55, Ending Sexual Violence, and it's focused on peer education skills. And the other is Women's and Gender Studies 54, Politics of Sexual Violence. And those courses are part of our Sexual Health Educator Certificate program at the college. Project Survive does a lot of student-focused programs at the college focused on domestic violence and sexual violence prevention. And we also do resource and referral visits with survivors at the college. We have an active student club, but the main part of our program is our paid leadership work for students working as sexual violence prevention peer educators. And they do that in the City College classrooms where we offer presentations in English, Spanish, and Chinese. And then we also have a program where our peer educators go into the SFUSD high school classrooms and gain experience leading a 2-day curriculum focused on healthy relationships to high school students. So if you're interested in gaining direct classroom education experience or working on issues of gender-based violence and or working directly with high school students, please check us out. City College is free for San Francisco residents, and there's also financial aid available for other students pursuing this course of study. The Sexual Health Educator Certificate in particular is a 16-unit of study, but again, the training to become a peer educator with Project Survive is just 6 units. So I want today to be focused on sharing with you all more about the work that our peer educators do. So I'm going to hand it over to Safi and to Mikey to share more about our curriculum and also resources for survivors and those who are in a position supporting them. But I will put more information about our programs into the chat, as well as my email if anybody has questions about how to get involved or is interested in enrolling in spring. Thanks a lot.
All right, awesome. All right, good morning, everybody. We are Project Survive. So as Adele said, we are a sexual violence prevention program that promotes a healthy relationship model. So we'll be talking about some heavy topics too about, sexual violence and rape and abuse. And with that said, please don't ever feel like you're alone. Reach out, and especially the resources we'll be giving you too. We'll be helping those who are or victims of violence and those who are, batters or perpetrators too. They need help to correct their behaviors as well. So we're trying to have an avenue for everybody to work as a community and to, help each other live a better livelihood, this is really important. So on the very bottom of the right screen has our information, our website, our phone number, our Project Survive link for Instagram and Facebook too. So it'll be really, really awesome if you copy that too as well. It's really important. And then on the top left screen, we have listen, respect, and protect. Listen, so please don't be checking your cell phone or like checking the TV. You can get easily distracted. Just please listen to us. It's really important because it can be life-saving. Respect. Now all of us have the same lifestyle, religion, so forth, but it'll be really important to, coexist and respect each other's lifestyle. Let's not be judgmental. And third and not least is protect. So some of you may talk about some personal experience. So if with that said, please let's keep everybody's privacy in this room. We want everybody to feel comfortable to project, their experiences, what they're feeling, and their thoughts too, even questions as well too. So please ask us questions or, comments too. It's really, really great. And again, my name is Mikey and I use the pronouns he and him. I'll let my co-presenter introduce themselves as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Safi. I use she and they pronouns.
Great. So now Safi is going to take us to our next section about healthy relationships.
Okay, so we're going to take comments from you guys. Does anybody want to help us out and share a quality that they think is important to a healthy relationship? You can raise your hand or just unmute yourself. I can help us get started. Oh, compassion from Eliza. Thank you. And love. Those are both really important. Seeing communication, clear communication. Anybody else? Respect. Thank you. Boundaries. A couple people said boundaries. Does anybody want to talk about what boundaries mean to them? Fun, joy, and laughter. Humor. Really important. Supports personal growth. Security. Space. Yeah, I think I'll go off space and say it's important to have your own lives outside of the relationship, your own friends, your own activities, your own hobbies, things you like to do. I see loyalty and commitment, trust. I think, does somebody want to say what loyalty means to them? I don't want to put you on the spot, Hannah, but if you feel like unmuting yourself or typing in the chat about loyalty. Alone time is really important. Yeah, just as much as quality time. Let's see. Okay, so Hannah says to them, loyalty means being committed to your partner and not cheating on them. Okay, so I think that's great. I think we want to acknowledge that there are different types of relationships. So for some people, maybe in an open relationship or polyamorous relationship, right, it would be okay to have multiple partners. But the important part in that situation would be communicating, as a bunch of you already said, communicating and already having established what those rules are in the relationship so that nobody feels, you can still like not quite cheat on somebody, but you can be disloyal, you can push boundaries within an open relationship. So just making sure that you've established together what your rules and boundaries are and then staying loyal to those rules and boundaries. So loyalty can mean different things, but yeah, it's important regardless of the type of relationship. So thanks, Hannah. Anybody else? It's a pretty good chart we have. Shared values. Thanks, Adele. I want to talk about good sex and healthy arguments. Before I do, Mikey, do you have anything you want to add?
Oh no, so far so good.
Okay, cool. So let's talk about healthy arguments first. So there are 3 components we believe to a healthy argument. They all start, here we go, non-frequent, non-abusive, and non-violent. The reason we separate abuse and violence is because violence can sometimes be a one-time situation whereas abuse is a cycle and it repeats and it happens throughout the relationship. And we're going to talk more about that later. But thanks, Mikey. So non-frequent, non-abusive, and non-violent. And for non-frequent, that can mean, again, different things for different people. And that's kind of up to you to decide. But if both of you feel, or all of you feel that you're arguing too often, then that's a problem. If you feel like you're arguing about kind of the same things come up over and over again and there's no resolution, that's a problem. So thank you for non-frequent, non-abusive, and non-violent. And then I'm going to move on to good sex. So there are also 3 components to good sex. We have consensual, safer, and mutually satisfying. So for consensual, that means there's a clear, enthusiastic yes from all parties, and it's consistent and through happening throughout the activity. So reaffirming the yes, asking questions, making sure people's boundaries are not being crossed, making sure everybody's okay with what's happening. And then for safer, the reason we say and not just safe is because sex is an inherently risky activity. There's no way to be 100% sure that you're being as safe as possible. You can like take all the precautions you can, but it's inherently risky. Does anybody want to put in the chat or call out what ways to be safer in sex? Or safer sex practices? I will offer, of course, there's birth control, contraception, getting tested regularly. Okay, yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's not just using protection, but also getting tested as often as seems relevant to the relationship. Birth control. Again, I think communication is part of having safe sex. Anybody else want to put anything in communication about sex? Yes. Regular checkups. Yeah. All of that. Thank you. And then for mutually satisfying, everybody should be enjoying it. It shouldn't be kind of one person is dictating the situation and the other person is just going along with it, or the other person is just there and kind of waiting for it to be over. The point is for it to be enjoyable for everybody. Yeah, I think that's really good. Does anybody want to put anything else up in our chart, or does anyone have any questions before we move on?
I'll add one thing for healthy arguments too, is that in terms of abuse and violence, they can be one and the same, but they can be separate as well too. Being that, somebody could be experiencing some mental abuse, some emotional abuse, and there's something called gaslighting, where somebody could do something horrible. Let's say a partner keys their partner's car, and the partner tells them, "Why did you do that to my car?" And that perpetrator could say, "No, you had too many drinks and you're not thinking straight. You're the one that did that." And they can convince somebody that, what that bad person didn't do. So, so it's a manipulation, and so it's really important to see that, even though somebody may not be experiencing violence, they can be experiencing some form of abuse too. Not being isolated from seeing their friends, not being able to dress a certain way because they'll be yelled at. So, but violence and abuse can be one and the same thing too, because violence could be a one-time act, kicking, hitting, using for an object and hitting somebody with that. And it becomes an abuse when it becomes an ongoing pattern when somebody uses some form of physical aggression towards the victim too. And that's it.
Yeah, thanks, Mikey. I'll give one last call if anybody wants to put anything else up in the chart or in our chat or call out. But I think that's really good. And I want to reiterate that the content is intense and rough in the presentation, but the goal of our presentation is to model what a healthy relationship looks like, remind us what healthy relationships look like, and know that, yes, there are like painful aspects sometimes, but it's always possible to have a relationship like this. So yeah, we're gonna leave that. leave you with that. Let's see. Do we want to move on to a little bit about philosophy? You know, Adele talked about it a little bit, but Mikey, do you want to go forward with that?
Yes. All right. So our philosophy in Project Survive is that anybody can be abused. There's not one single person, not one single group on this globe that's immune to abuse. It can happen to anybody. However, there are groups of people who experience more groups than other groups of people too. For example, those who are 14 years old, male, female, any gender, are more likely to experience abuse. Those who are not able-bodied are more likely to experience abuse. They hold less power over people. Other people hold power over them, so they take advantage of them, and it's, you know, very unfortunate. It's not right. So it doesn't matter what person's gender identity may be, their sexual orientation, their ethnicity, their socioeconomic class, whether they come from a wealthy, middle class, or poverty background. Doesn't matter how tall, short they are, anybody can be abused. Especially with regards to masculinity, it gives this false narrative that males are invincible. You can have a male who's like 6'2", 300 pounds of muscle, knows Taekwondo, and somebody can spike their drink and make them unconscious, and that person could be vulnerable too. That's just shown an example that it can happen to anybody too. And abuse is not a culture of value at all. It's something, a really dark side of humanity. And we do this presentation because, you know, nobody deserves to experience any abuse. You know, we come here to promote the idea that all of you deserve a healthy relationship. That is, if you do decide in a relationship, or whatever friendship relationship you may have with somebody, there's no reason to experience any abuse at all. Abuse takes different shapes and forms in all different cultures, but it's something that's not admirable. It's very ugly. So we come here to dismantle, you know, the rape culture we live in. So because people need to have a better upbringing in terms of how fostering a relationship too, you know, from being a teenager to, you know, until death. It's really important to have that too. And with that said, it'll be important not to make assumption on somebody's like gender. So it's really, really awesome to use pronouns. And what's great about pronouns is that it's another way to refer somebody. For example, I use pronouns he and him. And when you offer your pronouns to somebody too, or a group of people, it's letting them know that you won't be judgmental towards not just their like gender identity, but it lets them know that you won't be judgmental towards their religious background. You know, in other words, a person can feel more relaxed, express autonomy too. So my name is Mike and I use the pronouns he and him. I'll let Safi introduce themselves too.
Yes, and I'm Safi and I use she and they pronouns.
Great. Safi, is there anything you would like to add on top of this?
No, I think you did a good job. Adele, do you want to toss anything in?
I think you all have got it. I mean, Project Survive believes that abuse stems from unequal relations of power. So we're committed to ending all forms of power abuse. And I think that's all I'll add. Thank you.
Thanks, Adele. All right, so now we're going to go to the next section called What Do You Think? And Safi will take it from here.
Okay, so I think Nikki's putting a link to our handbook in the chat, and then yeah, it'll be up here. So we have 12 questions or kind of statements, and then I'm going to give you guys a few minutes to look over them and decide if you agree, disagree, or if you're unsure, and then we're going to talk about it. So I'll give you guys a few minutes to look it over. Okay, you can let me know in the chat if you feel like you need some more time, but I'm gonna start talking. So before we move forward, I just want to say that Project Survive disagrees with all of these statements. So these are stereotypes promoted by the dominant culture. It's okay if you did agree with some of them, because it's kind of what we're taught, and it's the examples that we are shown reinforce these ideas. So I don't want anyone to feel bad if they did agree. Before we talk about them, does anybody want to share one that stood out to them? Again, you can type it in the chat. You can just type the number, or you can go ahead and just shout it out. Okay. So I think Mikey mentioned the answers are on pages 10 and 11. Let's talk about them. So number one, rape is caused by uncontrollable sex drives. That's not true, right? So we have a couple examples we like to use. One of them is, let's say you and your partner are at home and it's maybe you're celebrating your anniversary or something. You guys have candles lit, it's romantic, you start having sex, and then the curtains catch on fire, right? They're too close to the candles. If the house is on fire, are you gonna continue to have sex, or are you gonna try and put the fire out, right? You're probably gonna try and put out the fire. If you are having sex and your kid comes into the room or your parent comes into the room, are you going to keep going? Or are you going to stop for the kid or the parent? You're probably going to stop, right? So those are examples to show that if you can stop for a life or death situation, if you can stop because you're embarrassed or to protect your kid, you can stop because somebody says no. So it's always possible to stop. There's never a reason for someone to continue when somebody has said that they want to stop, right? And so it's not about something uncontrollable within you or a feeling that's uncontrollable that won't let you stop, right? So that's number one. Does anyone have a question or a comment before we move on? Okay. Let's move on to number three. Most rape victims are raped by strangers, and 3B, most stalking victims are raped by strangers. So again, we disagree. Most rape and stalking victims it's from people they know. It's somebody that you know personally, somebody in the family, somebody in your friend group, a coworker, somebody that you ride the bus with who knows your routine. I think 73 to 75% of all victims know their assailants, and 66% of female victims are stalked by a current or former intimate partner, and 41% of male victims are stalked by a former or intimate partner, or current or former partner. So that's another myth that we want to try and debunk. It's usually somebody who has access to you, somebody, yeah, like I said, who knows your routine, who knows where you're going to be at a given time, who has some type of relationship with you, who you feel maybe comfortable with in some way. And then go on to 6. Most people are raped by someone from a different race, culture, or ethnicity than their own. This is also false. A majority of people, I think 80 to 90%, yeah, of survivors are attacked by someone of the same race. So that's because generally, I think we have an idea that we're kind of beyond like segregated social groups. And I think especially in the Bay Area, we have that idea, but that's not true. For the most part, we tend to hang out with people similar to us. We form communities with the type of people, people that we spend the most time with, people in our families. And so those tend to be people of the same race, ethnicity, background. There are a few, there's one exception. So I think most, sorry, 1 second. Native American women, I think 80%, 86% of the reported cases of rape or sexual assault victims who are Native women, the perpetrators are non-Native, and that's kind of a standalone separate issue, but majority of people, it's someone of the same race. Mikey, do you want to add anything before I move on? I'm going kind of quickly.
One more thing too, like during genocide of World War II, there's a higher chance that this one certain ethnicity will be raped by another ethnicity too. So yes, that's all.
Yeah, again, yeah, because rape is a tool to control, right? So does anybody have any questions before I move on? Okay. And then number 7, it's okay for a husband to rape his wife. 7B, since sex workers perform sex for money, they cannot be raped. Both extremely untrue. So, yeah, thanks, Mikey. It's never okay to force sex onto anybody. For a husband and a wife, consent, regardless of the type of relationship, whether or not you're married, whether you've been in a relationship for a long time, consent still needs to happen every single time. So you still need a clear yes every single time. For sex workers, I think there's an idea that because they perform sex for money, that once they've been hired or they've agreed, then the other person can do anything they want. And that's not true, right? So just because you've agreed to do A, B, and C doesn't mean you've agreed to X, Y, and Z. So you still need that vocal, ongoing, enthusiastic consent, regardless of the situation. And I'm going to read the legal definition of rape because I think that's also something a lot of people don't know. Yeah, if someone says no to a sexual act and the other person persists, that's rape. If someone is under the influence of drugs or alcohol, underage, or in any other way not able to give consent, sex with that person is rape. When a person has a reason to fear for physical safety or the safety of someone else for refusing sex and so submits, it is rape. The sexual acts included in this definition are forced oral copulation and forced anal or vaginal penetration. Other sexual violations may be classified as sexual battery. At California colleges and universities, receiving state funding like City College, a person not receiving an enthusiastic yes could be sanctioned. I want to again check in with Mikey and see if you have anything that you want to add to that, and invite people to put comments or questions in the chat.
Sure. Thanks, Safi. So in regards to consent too, just bear in mind that just because somebody gives their consent, they have every human right to take that back, whether making out with somebody or having sex with somebody. If they say, I don't want to do this anymore, and the other person doesn't respect their, their plea, that will constitute as some form of sexual like violence, battery, and rape. So just bear in mind that anybody has a right, to take their consent back, has to be enthusiastic the whole time. If they're not feeling it, they're not feeling it for a reason that needs to be respected. Second of all is that people cannot give their consent when they're under the influence like drugs and alcohol too. People can black out, be talking, slurring the words, not knowing what decisions they're making. same reason people are not allowed to drive when they're drunk, because they're not coherent, they're not thinking rationally as well. So if somebody has sex with somebody who's under the influence, that can constitute as rape too. Third, but not least, is coercion. So if somebody says yes to sex out of fear, that is rape. So for example, if a boss were to say, I'm going to fire you, but if you perform a sexual act, then I'll, promote you to being a manager, you won't lose your job. If that person says yes when they don't want to, that is rape too. So again, if somebody says yes to rape, to sex out of fear, that constitutes as rape too. So it's really important to know that as well. And that is all.
Okay, thank you. And then let's move on to number 10. Anyone who first agrees to sex and then tells a partner to stop is partially responsible if the partner does not stop and so commits rape. So absolutely not. It might seem like the person is teasing, although that's not usually the case. That's another like stereotype promoted by the dominant culture. I think that women, because sex is stigmatized for women from people, that, oh, she's gonna say no even if she wants it because maybe she doesn't feel comfortable saying yes, or she's embarrassed to say yes, but she's teasing and she really wants it. So that's not true, right? We don't believe that. If a person is teasing, you don't need to see that person again. You can talk to that person. You can ask. It's always okay to ask and reiterate and make sure. But it's never okay to rape anybody, regardless of the situation. If somebody has agreed to sex, they can say no and change their mind at any time. They can offer a reason, or they don't have to have a reason. It could be something small, like they're tired or they don't feel like it anymore, or the partner's breath smells bad to them. Or it could be something bigger, like the person is having a flashback. Maybe they have sexual trauma and they're feeling triggered. So it can be for any reason, and it doesn't really matter what the reason is. The person can change their mind at any time. And I'm gonna ask again, do we have any questions or comments? Or are there any numbers that you guys wanted to go over before we move on? And Mikey, anything else? Good. Okay, great. I also want to talk about number 12, but we're going to go over that a little bit later. Let's move on to our role play, Pat and Chris. Mikey, do you want to take over?
Sure thing. All right, so here's the scenario. Pat is 23 years old, and Pat has taken a great liking towards Chris, who's 18 years old. So Pat asked Chris on a date, and Chris said yes. So they just had dinner, went to the movies, and now they went to basically Twin Peaks, and they're just like hanging out, chilling in the car. So Safi and I will be taking these roles, and just know that these roles can be any gender too. Chris, Chrissy, Christopher. So, but as to your percentage, we'll be using arm pronouns for these roles. So I want to ask Safi, who would you like to be today? Or you're mute. You're on mute.
Thank you. I'd like to be Chris. I'll be Chris today.
Okay, cool.
Thanks.
All right, so scene. So Chris, so how do you like the view up here?
It's really beautiful. Thanks for taking me up here.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure. And I'm really digging you, and I want to see if you want to get the backseat of my car. We can like make out, fool around. How do you feel about that?
No. I'm not comfortable with that. I really appreciate you taking me out and paying for everything and driving me up here, picking me up. But I really like you, but I think at least today, like I'd just like to be friends for now. I don't think I'm ready for anything else.
Bummer. Okay. Well, I could drop you off, or we can get some ice cream. Still want to hang out, because I'm down.
Could you drop me off?
Yeah, sure. I'll drop you off.
Thank you.
Okay. And that's scene.
You're muted.
Mute. Okay, now it's scene. Thanks, Sappy. So now we're gonna bring it back together, and Sappy and I are gonna be remaining our roles. So I want to ask Sappy, how does it feel playing Chris? How does Chris feel? And that's what I mean.
Chris, I think Chris maybe is starting to feel uncomfortable once Pat asked Chris to get in the back seat with them, like nervous to say no. Nervous to say no because Pat paid for everything. So Chris was feeling a little vulnerable, maybe like feeling like they owe Pat, but they didn't want to, but it felt uncomfortable to speak up. What about Pat?
Oh, Pat feels frustrated, like bummed out. Pat thought if they paid so much money, took them out, wine and dine them, that they were going to get some like, action, some physical intimacy without the person. But Pat, was doing the best to respect the autonomy, try to make the vibe, good, even though that was kind of awkward. So, but yeah, Pat's just kind of like bummed out that he was rejected, basically, which is a natural feeling, of course, but there's no reason to be aggressive afterwards from that point on. So I want to ask Sappy, just like if you shake out of roles, how does it feel playing that role as Chris?
It felt a little uncomfortable. I think more often I personally am in that situation and dating relationships where I feel a little bit more at the other person's mercy. But it felt good to speak up for Chris, and then also a little stressful, wondering how Pat's going to respond.
Yeah, definitely too. That totally makes sense because if somebody gets rejected, sometimes they can be respectful, sometimes they can be really rude, and that can make it dangerous at times, of course. So playing this role, Pat, identify as a male. So in terms of dating, I know, even unconscious, like I have more power over somebody else. But in talking to my friends, my male friends, that is that I'd argue with them, telling them like, look, like it doesn't matter what X amount of money you spend, that person's not obligated to do anything for you. As Safi said too, somebody could say, oh, I spent so much money on this, on your car and your dinner. Why don't you give me some action? I want to have sex. And if somebody's having sex, when they don't want to, that constitutes as rape. Sex has to have that mutual feeling. So again, if any of you take out somebody or somebody takes you out, for a date, no favors are offered. There's no X amount of money that says, oh, I can use your body. Your body is your personal temple. You're the captain over your own ship, and you have every right to make decision over your own body. For whatever, okay, yeah. So you have every decision to make over your body, whatever it is, and nobody has that. Hold on a second, Gabby. So you have every right to yeah, sorry about that. So again, in regards to that, you have every right to make your autonomy decision. Nobody has the right to make decisions of your own body. So just bear that in mind. It's really, really important to know that. So again, it's really important that to recognize how the person who can stop rape, any sexual assault from happening is a perpetrator. They have 100% control to prevent rape or any sexual assault that might be. Whereas the victim, the only thing the victim can basically do is reduce the chances of something happening to them, but they don't have 100% control. So as it says here, only potential aggressor can prevent a rape from happening. So it will be really, really awesome to have everybody unmute themselves. And I want you to repeat the phrase I'm saying. And it's really important to say this because it's really good to practice your assertiveness too, your autonomy. Don't just say yes to please the other person. If you feel like you need to say no, say no. Don't say yes or no just to make the person happy. Say what you really feel and think inside. You have to take care of yourself first before taking care of others as well. So, okay, repeat after me. Whatever I do.
Whatever I do.
And wherever I go.
Wherever I go.
Yes means yes.
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 Means
Means
yes.
yes.
And no means no.
And
And
no
no
means
means no.
no.
Awesome, everybody. I'm glad they all like did it too. It's really important to practice your autonomy, to really stand your ground too, and be supportive of one another too. All righty. So now we're going to be talking about, reduction tips. So what somebody can do to safeguard themselves in terms of dating. So I'm going to throw an example. So group dating can be really, really great. So you're feeling uncomfortable, you don't know the person. You can always tell your friend, hey, can you bring your date and we can have a double date? And that can, you can have more of a security because you have a friend with you too, and they have their partner as well. So you're with people you're more familiar with. So I want to ask all of you, like, whatever like reduction tips can we use or somebody can use to make the date more safer for them? I'll be writing them down, by the way.
I'll offer you could pay your own way. Oh, and we have something from Eliza. Be at a place you're familiar with. Yeah, that's great.
Yeah, with that said, being a place you're familiar with, definitely don't go out dating like middle of the night in some isolated area where there's no people. Go during the day in some public, place. It could be Dolores Park, it could be a mall, somewhere where there's a lot of people too. If they want to take out, in the middle of nowhere, that's a red flag. So unless you know them for maybe a year, like you're comfortable with, of course you can do what you want. But in terms of like dating for the first time, yeah, don't expose yourself until you really truly know their intentions of whether it's good or bad. So I'm gonna add that in. And I will also add too, what else do we have? Oh yeah, exactly. Don't give too much information about yourself too. So yes, be really mindful while you post on social media, especially Instagram. Sometimes they can show you exactly where you post. You want to be posting and have your location where you live too. And yeah, don't have somebody pick you up in front of your house for the first time. Meet them at that restaurant or some street too. So get to know the person before you start telling more about yourself, because you don't want to leave yourself too vulnerable and you don't want somebody to take advantage of that too. So yeah, provide your own transportation. Yeah, so you can definitely use like Uber, you can use your own car, you can have a friend drive you, you can take the taxi, you can take Muni. So it'll be great not to have somebody like drive you in the first date, but it would be better if you drove yourself or took some other transportation. Again, get to know the person before you do other things with them too. What else could somebody do? Yeah, prepare necessary protection emerging contacts. So I'm going to add something, use a secret code. So let's say that you're dating somebody and you're feeling like you're in some dangerous situation. If you were to text your friend, oh, come get me, I don't feel safe, the potential perpetrator could look over your shoulder, see where you're texting, and then the last thing what anybody would want is to have a bad situation to become worse. So if you have a secret texting code, for example, my date's really awesome, that can be a code word for, okay, you have my GPS location, come get me right now. So if the perpetrator sees that text, it's going to go over the head. They're not going to know that you're getting help immediately too. So have some kind of secret code that it goes under the radar. That person won't know that you're receiving help immediately too. So that's another example as well. Yeah, again, let somebody know your whereabouts too. I will also add like take a selfie with a person too, take a picture of their license plate. If that person doesn't like that, that can be a yellow flag that something may be up, that maybe you shouldn't be don't trust that person so much, at least from that point on. It could be a little fishy. Yeah, exactly. Buy your own drinks. I would also say that be really, really mindful of your own drinks too. Even if you buy your own drink, make sure you don't go to the bathroom, come back, somebody could put something in your drink too. This is why it's really good to have friends or some people come along with you in a day too, so they can keep an eye on your drink. They can be a safeguard too. And especially with regards to like alcohol and drugs too, is best not to experiment that on the first date too. So again, it will be really important not to do that, or it'll have some company to watch over your back too. So that's really, really important. Ask assistance from staff of restaurant, wherever you may be, that could immediately help. Yeah, so you can, exactly. If you feel like you're in danger, please communicate that to other people too, even like, workers at some like store or restaurant, give them a heads up too, and they can like call the police or help in some other way too, get you out of trouble, maybe taking a back room so you don't feel so much in danger too. So, Safi, Adele, would you two like to add anything here? Okay.
I think that's good.
Okay, great. And also, we don't want to, okay, so somebody could potentially bring like, a weapon or a pepper spray or knife to a date, and we don't promote that. Rather, we promote self-defense. And why do we do that? Well, here's the thing. Let's say if you're in a car, a perpetrator is acting too aggressive, you can say, okay, time out, and then reach for your pepper spray. And if you reach your pepper spray, if you pepper spray them in the car, you're not just going to get them, you're going to get yourself as well too. So it'll be really, really important, to take Janet G's class. Janet G's really, really cool. For example, Janet G will tell you how to break out of a trunk of a car too. Whether there's like old model, a new model, and this can be really informative, to teach maybe your nieces and nephews, friends, family, other people too. So I'm going to be leaving the link for Janet G's information too. And I really, really, really would promote that all of you take this so you can know how to use your body, know how to use your voice to defend yourself too. So if somebody has a weapon too, or whatever the situation may be, Janet G will teach in multiple scenarios how to handle that situation to better safeguard yourself and people you love as well too. Yeah, that is it. So 1 second. Okay. So now we're gonna go to our next section. And for the sake of this, we're gonna move straight into the cycle of abuse too.
Okay. See. So, violence or abuse, emotional, physical, happens in a cycle. So the first stage of that cycle is what we call hearts and flowers, or some people call the honeymoon stage. You're really in love, everything's going well, you're having a good time, you guys aren't fighting or anything like that. That's the first stage. And then as time goes on, tension starts to build. It's when like you feel like you're walking on eggshells. There's a lot of little arguments that are building up. There's fear or discomfort, or this is when you're starting to become unsure of what's happening in the relationship. So the tension keeps building, right? And you feel like, again, walking on eggshells, meaning you have to kind of tiptoe around the other partner because you don't want to upset them. You feel like they're getting upset all the time over anything, and like you can't do anything right. So that's the tension building stage. And then at this point, this is when, if it's a healthy relationship, you would have one of those healthy arguments that we talked about earlier, where you feel comfortable speaking up about the tension, or feeling uncomfortable or feeling scared around your partner, and you guys are able to have a healthy argument or conversation about what's going on. But that's in like best case scenario. So in this situation, the tension keeps building until stage 3, there's an explosion. And that can be verbal, physical, sexual. There's different ways that that can go. But yeah, so it goes hearts and flowers. Everything's good. The person's really charming, maybe. Everything's okay, the tension building, and then the explosion. And then after the explosion, when things died down a little bit, that's when there's apologies and promises, and this is when they say, oh, it's not going to happen again. I'm never going to do this again. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Right. And then it goes back to stage one, the hearts and flowers, the honeymoon stage. And then as time goes by, the cycle keeps going. It's not a one-time thing. It keeps happening. And then eventually it goes from tension building to explosion and back to tension building. And it's going back and forth. And the honeymoon stage doesn't happen. The apologies don't happen anymore. It's just tense and the walking on eggshells and the fear and then the explosion, and then it goes back to being tense and just like anticipating the next explosion. Mikey, do you want to add anything in here before I move on? Got it. Okay. So there are different ways the abused person can seek help. A safety plan or an emergency plan. Figuring out how you're going to get out of the situation. This is a good time to talk to somebody else. You might need other people's help or support in gathering resources and figuring out how you're going to leave, who's going to watch your kids, who's going to watch pets, where you're going to stay. Yeah, so that's finding a safety plan. We also recommend for the abused and for the abuser individual counseling. We don't encourage couples counseling in an abusive relationship because counseling is like a safe space. And maybe if the abused person brings up something that the abuser did, they feel safe doing so because they're with the counselor and the counselor helps them talk it through. But then when they get home, the abuser is angry with them for bringing it up, didn't want them to bring it up, and they can retaliate. So as soon as you're out of the counseling, you're at risk again, and sometimes you're at higher risk because your partner's even angrier. So that's why we don't encourage couples counseling during abuse, but individual counseling for sure. Support groups. There's different shelters and resources here. We have them listed here: Women Inc., KUA, La Casa, Asian Women's Shelter, Riley Center. And then in the handbook that we posted in the chat, there's a bunch of other resources too. So those are resources for the person being abused. Mikey, do you want to add anything?
Real quick too, for the batter's intervention, it's 12 to 18 months. Because think about this, if somebody's been like acting abusive for such a long period of time, it's not like they can just fix their behavior the next day. They have a lot of unraveling to do too. In the batter's intervention program too, there's something called the mirror effect, where out there's just a bunch of batterers, they have a couple counselors and talk about their experiences. And the mirror effect, what it is like they see themselves in the mirror, they see like self-reflection. So one batter may say, yeah, my partner didn't pay the bills, so I got rid of the dog. Another batter will think, oh, that's really shady, that's really cruel. And they realize, wait a minute, I've done something really similar and it makes me feel ugly. I don't like the behavior, and I see I do the behavior as well too. So that can help to reinforce more positive behaviors as well too. And yes, as Safi mentioned, they have different counselings for swap prep, man and glide too. It's really, really important to self-check into. And some of this batter intervention program is mandated and it can be volunteer as well too. But in regards for the victim as well, individual counseling can be a little expensive, with insurance, etc. So this is why it's so beautiful how the Bay Area has group counseling where there's a group of people, a couple counselors as well too, and they talk about how to support one another, give tips, how to survive something like that, and how to find a better relationship with them, for themselves as well too. So it's really important. And yeah, that's basically it. Safi.
Yeah, thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Oh, so who runs a batter's intervention program? We have swap prep, Manning Glide too. And I left a link too, and it has different sections about for the Bees person, what programs they can utilize as well too. And that link that I gave, we gave as well too, has like the phone number too. So again, there's different battery intervention programs, even KUA, Community United Against Violence, tailors towards the LGBT community, and they also have a battery intervention program as well too. So and then again, like for yeah, so that's basically it. If that answers your questions, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Does anyone else have questions before we move on about resources, about the cycle of abuse, about creating a safety plan, any of it? Okay, great. I'm going to turn it over to Mikey for our closing comments.
As Adele mentioned earlier, taking Women's 55, Women's 54, you can take those two classes at the same time or take them separately too. And it will be really, really informative, you know, and it's going to give you a lot of rich information of how to you know, promote a healthier like community too, you know, for yourself and for where you live, and to spread the positive message that, you know, it's really important to like promote healthy relationships too. And this is our information about how to join our, you know, our program as well too. And yeah, and it's awesome working either the community college or the high schools too, you know, to give that information. You'll see that people it's really get a lot of positive feedback too, how it's really changed in terms of people's lives and livelihoods as well too. And yes, we left a link, so it'll be awesome if you leave evaluation, you know, get positive feedback or even constructive criticism, because we're always trying to do our best to better this program to better inform all of you as well too. And that is all. Anything else, Safi or Adele, you would like to add?
No, thank you. Adele, do you have anything?
Shared some more information in the chat about our program and about studying to be a Project Survive peer educator. And yeah, if folks have questions, now would be a good time to take those because it looks like there's a few more minutes before 11 o'clock. Great. Thanks, folks, for joining. Are there any questions for Safi and Mikey about working as peer educators? Great, thank you all very much. I also put the link for the Teach for the Bay workshop evaluation into the chat. Have a great day.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for having us. Take care, everybody.